Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Knapik. Every week, we talk with interesting people in a variety of professions for ideas to enhance your success in all aspects of life. Successful Living with Bill Knapik starts right now. Here's Bill Knapik.
Welcome to the show. It is Successful Living with Bill Knapik, and today a special edition as we are brought to you by Texas Floor Covering and Judine Deacle. So thank you for joining us. As always, go to radiobill.net where you can see and hear the shows and all the coordinates. So let's get started as we talk with Anita Carman, and she is the founder of an organization called Inspire Women. Anita, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's good to see you. And first of all, let's tell people about your organization. What is Inspire Women?
You know, people ask me that, and I asked them to do this. I said, imagine a world where every woman wakes up knowing her purpose. But more than that, she has a friend who will walk with her and who will invest in her and her potential to change the world. Like, can you imagine what that would be like? You know, especially for women being so relational and often so afraid to step out on their own that they know that they're not by themselves anymore.
It would be a different world.
It would be.
A better world,
Yeah.
in fact, I'd
Yeah.
venture to say.
Well, I just think, too, that in every city, it needs to be intentional. Someone needs to do something that will stir up the dreamer in diverse women. Okay, because they were put on earth for a purpose. And for us to send a message that you were here, put on earth with a certain set of talents and gifts, and it's not random, and it's because there's something you were supposed to do, you were meant to do. And how sad to leave this world and not have finished what God designed you to do. So what Inspire Women wants to do is to really help women to see that, that dream that you hid in your heart, it's okay to talk about it. A lot of times when we ask women that, tears will just flow down their faces and they'll say to me, no one has ever asked me that. Like, my life has always been about what my husband needs or what my children needs. And no one has ever asked me, do you actually have dreams of your own? And what is it that you would like to do in this world?
That's a good point. And the organization, is it right here? It's based in Houston?
Yes. It is based in Houston, Texas. And we reach women. They come from over 300 zip codes because we were looking at where the base comes from. And so since the day we began, which was really insane, because when God first put on my heart to build something like this, to rally women from diverse backgrounds, I would argue with him. And I said to him, but I'm an immigrant. I'm not even from Houston. So how could it be that I would be the voice to be rallying the city? And I think that I would argue with God and I would say, but God, nobody knows my name. And I felt his answer to me was, but they don't need to know your name. They need to know mine. And that if you would just go out there and if you would represent my heart and what I want for the women and for my daughters, then you're the one to start Inspire Women. And he says, and at the end of the day, he said, Inspire Women is going to be in the history books. It will be what the women will be studying when they talk about women's ministry because of what I'm going to ask you to build. And he says, and no one is going to say that it was established because of you. Because there was nothing about you that could have done this. He said, it's going to be established because of me. And I would say to God, but God, I'm the founder of Inspire Women. It sounds really stupid if I don't know where we're going. And I would hear him say, no, you are not the founder of Inspire Women. I am the founder of Inspire Women. You are going as my servant, and your success will be in your obedience when I say go. And that's what we have done. We have literally walked through the doors that he said to walk through, and we have just seen a miraculous provision and opportunities that we could never have orchestrated on our own.
Give us an idea of the women that have benefited from your organization, Inspire Women.
Inspire Women, when we looked at the demographics of the women who have come, 70% of them are minorities. And they come from backgrounds where they've never, in a way, been invited to dream or to feel empowered that someone would walk with them. When we started offering scholarships for the women to be trained in whatever it is that you want to do to change the world. Okay, so someone might say, I come from a background of abuse. And I really want to turn my pain into purpose. One of our scholarship recipients said, could you tell your supporters that when there's no funding to invest in my training, then all I have left are my memories. But when there is funding and I can get trained, she says, I can be a biblical counselor. I came from a background of abuse, but now I can work with abused kids. And now you've turned my pain into a new purpose for my life. 60% of the women that we fund actually come from backgrounds of abuse. And the others come from backgrounds where they don't have the discretionary income to invest in their own education. So we're really about rescuing potential. We're really about women who have been sitting on the bench, and we're saying, man, we need all of you. We need all of us. That God's mission is accomplished by the combined gifts in each of us. And when one of us is diminished, we are all diminished.
And you said you came from another country. Let's tell people where you came from and how long ago.
Oh, man. I came from Hong Kong. I came at the age of 17. And I actually came here right after, probably a couple months after my mother had taken her own life. All her life, her dream was to get us to the land of America. Growing up, I would just hear her say that Hong Kong is on temporary time. She said, you do not build your life on temporary land. You've got to go to a place where the land is free so that you can build from a strong foundation. And from a very young age, I was taught that life is bigger than what you want to do with your life. You don't get to hang out on the beach with your friends. You don't get to do the things that maybe a normal teenager does because you have a bigger mission. My family looked to me as the one that you're going to win a full scholarship because there is no money. And through that, you're going to get your education. And then from that, you're going to help rescue the rest of the family. So I grew up where it was insanely disciplined, where I would hide in an office building to study because there was no air conditioning in my home. And it was so hot in Hong Kong, could go up to 100 degrees, and it was so humid. And I would find a building where there's a stairwell where there are big windows, so there would be light. And I literally would sneak in, sit there from maybe 7 in the morning, and not budge till the sun goes down about 6 o'clock. I mean, literally, that's how disciplined I was. I used to kid my son. I said, man, if we were in the competition, I said I would win. And he was like, no way. And I said, because you see, you've never had to persevere. You've never had to persevere under very hard conditions. And when I finally won that scholarship to come to this country, I don't know what happened in my mother's spirit. I don't know if she just felt that my mission is done. I found a way for her to get out. Her own petition had been denied. And I think she was so despondent over that.
Been denied to what?
To come to this country.
Okay, so she attempted to come.
Yeah, she attempted to come, and they denied her petition to come. But I received papers to leave based on winning a full scholarship. You know, she was also in a marriage where my father was very, very volatile, and she was very verbally abusive. And we lived in a home where I remember as a little girl, I would say to her, we'll just leave. We'll just run away together. And she would be like, no, we can't. You know, we have no money. You're better off here. And then as I went to school, I would say, but when I go to school and I come home, I said, you can't be gone, okay? You promised me you're not going to be gone. And she'll be like, no, I'll be here. And we were like, we'll do it together. We'll get through this together. And I'm going to grow up and I'll get stronger and I will come back for you. And so that was like the dream. When I woke up to find she had taken her own life, I think what hit me was, oh my God, she left. She promised she would never leave. We were going to do this together. And I remember when I came to this country, it was like reaching the dream that began in her heart. And on the one hand, being so excited, like, oh my God, I made it. On the other hand, it was like, I don't know what the script is. Because all my life, it's been her saying, you got to build your life on solid ground. But how does the rest of the story end? And I didn't know. But now when I look back, I realize that in times in your life, you could be in the place in your life where you were so broken and everything has fallen apart, which is what I was feeling at the time. And I didn't know how to put the pieces of my life together. And yet when I look back now, I thought, isn't that amazing? That in your own perception of what is happening, it is totally different than God's perception of what is happening. Because I thought that when I landed on America, feeling like there's nothing here for me because I've lost all my relationships and all my network and everything I'm familiar with. And I thought, but from heaven, God was saying, we're right on time. The founder of Inspire Women has landed.
How many years ago was that?
So I came here in, 1976.
And how old was your mother when she died?
My mother was in her 40s when she died.
So you've received, I understand, a medal from the Daughters of the American Revolution for being an immigrant that's changed America.
I think that's so insane.
Can you believe that?
I couldn't believe it when they announced that. And I was sitting in the audience, and what I was thinking was, oh my gosh, God is showing off. That's what I was thinking. Not that, oh, this is my life, but it's really like what he did with a life. And I think as I went up there to accept the medal and they wanted me to say something about my past, I could not contain myself because I started out by saying, I wish I could bring you back to where the story began. Because I thought, because only then you could see how amazing a God we serve and how he's able to protect his purpose for our lives. And as I was just speaking to them, my mind would flash back to those days in Hong Kong. And I thought, I grew up on the second floor of a 3-story building between a bar on the first floor and a brothel on the third. Okay, so here
what a building.
I was. Here I was.
Ironic.
I was sandwiched in between a bar and a brothel. I would actually hear the pimps when they were beating up the prostitutes, and they were screaming, right? And here I was, and I imagined myself as this little girl going to school, right? And I am in my pristine white uniform, skipping down the stairs as I'm heading to a mission school in Hong Kong. Okay, somehow, I don't know how my mother did it. I think she bribed the nuns or something because it was a Catholic mission school.
So a private school.
It was a private a mission school in Hong Kong. And I got in. I think I remembered this. The tuition was $12 a month. Now, I don't know if it was $12 for everybody, but that's how much it was for me. But when I look back at that time, what I tell the women is, I really don't care what backgrounds you come from. Because I've lived through a time where all the circumstances around you could be so bleak. And there could be nothing around you that would tell you that there's any chance of this succeeding. And yet in the midst of that, I have lived through a time where I have seen God preserve potential or protect potential in the midst of darkness because he's got a plan for your life. And I think that's something that my mother always taught me. She would always say that God is not blind. And she would say, and in the end, those who serve him will win. I think that's why it was so tragic for me that the one who taught me faith should somehow lose that faith for herself. But in my country, when you have any kind of a mental breakdown, it's not something that you would tell anybody. And even after she died, my father would say, don't tell anybody she killed herself. Like go around and tell them she had a heart attack, because it'd be a real embarrassment to the family for that to happen. And I just felt like, could it be that she was in so much pain and she couldn't get help because it just wasn't the right thing in the culture to ask for help in that area.
We're talking with Anita Carman, who founded Inspire Women right here in Houston, Texas. And before you did that, Anita, you were in the corporate world,
Yes.
I suppose, here in Houston. Tell us about
Yes.
that and how you transitioned to this organization, Inspire Women.
Well, when I first came to this country, right, I told you I didn't know how the story would end. So the one area I was always sure of was my academics. And so I just totally threw myself into my studies. And I was insane. I was totally insane. I was in such a hurry to get there. Thinking that, if I could just get that degree that my mom wanted me to get, then maybe I'll get some clarity. And so I literally finished a 4-year program in 2 years. I went to see the dean of students asking for permission to take more classes, and he thought I was insane. And I said, no, I've got to take 24 credit hours this semester. And he said, well, you're on scholarship. If you don't make your grades, you're going to lose your scholarship. And I said, I assure you, I will make my grades. Can you just approve it? So he did. So I finished a 4-year program in 2 years, went on for my MBA, and then I went into the world of management consulting. So I actually worked for companies like Exxon, and I worked for a management consulting firm called Booz Allen and Hamilton. And I was just flying up the corporate ladder. I bought my first house at the age of 24. I felt like I had reached all those dreams that people would say that you needed to reach in order to be happy in your life. And yet deep inside, I felt like on the outside, everyone saw me as a success. But on the inside, I was just breaking down. And I thought there's something not right. And I think that's when God took a hold of my life, and he was trying to show me that a lot of times God entrusts you with pain because he turns that pain into purpose. And what you try to do is you try to run away from your pain. But when you run away from your pain, you're really running away from a part of yourself. But there needs to be a way where it can all be brought together. Okay, so I remembered I was still wrestling with God on that. And so I took some time to be home when I had my first child. And then I thought, no, I'm going back to corporate America. So I went for this interview. And it was one of these tedious interviews where they put you in a hotel with 40 people there, and they give you these business cases to solve, and their leaders would walk around watching you to see how you did it. And then from that, they would pick like 10 out of the 40 to stay on for the next round of interviews. And then, so I went through like 3, 4, 5 layers of interview, was finally invited to join that company. And 2 weeks before I was scheduled to start, they called to say that their VP had resigned and taken half the customers with them, and they had to rescind the offer. Okay, so I'm sitting here going, why did all these green lights, right, turn out to be a red light? And when I went to God with that, I sensed that he was saying, I don't want you to come serve me because there's nothing better for you to do. He says, I want you to come serve me when there are opportunities out there, but you're choosing to use your gifts to build something for me. And so that's when I just surrendered and said, okay, so whatever degrees I have or experience I have, I'm going to use that and build a nonprofit for God. And that's what I did with Inspire Women. It has required me taking everything I've ever learned. I went to seminary. It's taken my seminary degree. It's taken my MBA. It's taken all my years in corporate America. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I used to kid ministry leaders, and I would say to them, guys, it's a little unfair because you guys talk about having faith. But I said, but the reality is many of you actually don't know how to read a spreadsheet. Okay, so you can have faith, but because you don't know what the financials are. And I said, but I can read something like that, and I can tell you the exact day we will die, okay? If this doesn't happen, we're gone. And in the midst of that, God will say go. And I said, so it's sort of like a faith that has knowledge behind it and needing to trust him through it. and watching him do things beyond my wildest imagination. So when Inspire Women started, I felt like God was saying, you've been so confident in your own skills. And you could always look at your own resume and say, oh, I can do this. And he says, but what if I raised the bar? What if I did it where there's no way you could do it on your own resume? And he says, and now you're going to learn something about me. And I think the whole Inspire Women experience, even though I'm so excited for what it has done for the women, I think it has changed me.
And there's more to go.
Yes.
Let's tell people, Anita, the website of Inspire Women.
It's inspirewomen.org.
inspirewomen.org. And also, they can go to the website, of course, but some of the things you're doing there, I also understand you teach there periodically.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, I think that what I found is funding the training of women is amazing. But I also found that a lot of times in the academic programs, they don't talk about emotions. It's a little uncomfortable for them. So, like, even if you're in seminary, you're not going to go up to your professor and tell him your emotional triggers. You're not going to tell him that you were abused by your stepfather and all that stuff, which you have to process. Because as you're a leader, and if you don't process these things that are your triggers, it will affect your leadership. And so what I did was I actually wrote a curriculum called Transforming Emotions in the Leader's Heart. And it was accepted for credit so that when the women take it with us, they can actually get credit for it at several accredited universities because they recognize the value of that. It's like someone can have a whole bunch of head knowledge, and I'll say to them, I don't care how great your vision is, because if you can't get out of bed, nothing is happening. And the emotions that I felt that I had to deal with when God led me to start Inspire Women was loneliness, rejection, and fear. The loneliness that I used to tell my son, this is so funny, when they were home, he was in high school at the time, and I was so mad about my life because it felt so much pressure, right? And I just said that I don't want to do this anymore. And they would say, well, but mother, eagles fly alone. And I was just like, but I don't want to be an eagle. I said, I want to be a chicken, and I want to cluck around with the other chickens. And my oldest son said, but mother, the problem is you don't get to choose. And he says, God has chosen. And that really stuck with me. My oldest son is also very gifted. In fact, both my sons are gifted. And he was actually in school and competing for a contest representing his school. And his coach said, you have 5 matches ahead of you, and you have to win every one of them in order for your team to win. And so he said, Mother, don't talk to me. I'm trying to focus, right? And so I said to my youngest son, don't you feel sorry for your brother? He's under so much pressure. And my youngest son said, no, I don't feel sorry for him. And I said, why don't you feel sorry for him? And he says, because, Mother, he has the gift. He says, when you have the gift, he said, you step into it and you use it. Why should anybody feel sorry for you? You have the gift. And I think that that's what I realized as God was leading me to lead Inspire Women, that somehow he has gifted me and raised me up from a very young age to be focused, to be disciplined, to always look at the bigger picture and not let incidents in your present derail you and you forget what the bigger mission is. And he wanted to use it for him. He said, I want you to use all that to build something for me. It is not about you. It is about what I am building.
We're talking with Anita Carman with Inspire Women. The website is inspirewomen.org. That's inspirewomen.org. We're coming right back after this. Thank you, Anita. As we move from room to room, building to building, business to business, we are walking on floors of some type at all times. At Texas Floor Covering, we are there to serve you since 1989, helping you, whether you're an architect, designer, building manager, general contractor, a sports arena, government agency. We are there for your commercial flooring needs. Texas Floor Covering. Give us a call at 713-862-2444. That's 713-862-2444. Our website is texasfloorcovering.com. That's texasfloorcovering.com. Check us out. We are here for you, Texas Floor Covering. As we continue, we are with Anita Carman with Inspire Women. The website, if you're by your computer, is inspirewomen.org. Anita, let's tell people what else we want to start out with as far as the teaching and some of the things. There's so many elements and components to teaching, and even the facets of the things you're teaching, empowering other leaders out there. It's important work. It's phenomenal what you're doing.
Right. I think that we look at the women who come and the things they want to do, right? Some of the women, they want to be teaching God's word. And then we would say, it's so interesting that in every other field, if you were preparing for that, for you to be the best in that, people actually go to school for that, right? You don't ever imagine being a doctor without going to school. And yet you're dealing with the souls of humankind and teaching God's word and his really conveying to people what the God, the creator of the world, says about humankind and what he expects from us. And you're going to do it by what? By randomly going to a class here or there instead of formally getting trained. So there are women out there who are very serious about that, and they don't want to handle God's word lightly, and they want to take the time to really learn it. And I remember when I went to seminary, it was the funniest thing, because I would say to the professor, just tell me what it says. And they would say, well, it depends. And I'd be like, what it depends on what? And they said, well, there are 5 views of it. I said, what do you mean they have 5 views? So I'm just like, just tell me what is the right view. And he says, I can't tell you what the right view is. I will tell you what the 5 views are, and I will teach you how to think. And now you have to decide. He said, I'm not going to spoon feed you. You have to think through these things. So I think it really challenged me at a different level to think through some of the biblical truths. And I think there are women out there who says, I want to do that. I want to learn God's word in an accredited institution in a serious way. Then there are women out there who want to be a counselor. They want to be a substance abuse counselor. I had a woman whose brother died of alcohol consumption. And she said, so I want my life to be about helping people who are struggling with alcohol, right? I had a woman who she was sexually abused by her stepfather repeatedly. She said, I ran away from home at the age of 16, and I lived under a bridge. When I was there, I was raped by a homeless man. And she says, then one day I walked past a church and I heard the music from the church. And somehow I felt it was like the power of God just washing over me. And I used to feel so tainted. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was pure again. And that God was giving me this opportunity to turn my life and make something out of it. And she says, I want to be trained to be able to go back and help children who are at risk. And to do that, I want to be a counselor. So you can't get a counseling license if you're not licensed by the state, right? And to do that, you need to have accredited training. You need to actually have a formal degree in it. So we will fund scholarships for that. Or I had a situation with someone, she said, my best friend was literally shot by her abusive boyfriend and died in my arms. And she said, I wanted my life to be that of being the executive director of a women's center where I could help women who might be in transition and just struggling with things. And one of the things she says that if you are going to start something, for you to have credibility, she said people want to know if you've had preparation. You don't just go hang a shingle. So women will come to us asking for formal training so that they could have the degrees and the credentials to do what they want to do.
And let's tell people a little bit more about the women that either seek you and your organization, Inspire Women, or those that you may look at and bring into the organization.
Yeah, well, what happens is we actually meet them at our citywide conference, right? So at our conference before COVID, we used to run about 4,500 women would register, and they come from over 300 different zip codes. And when I think
we're saying outside of Texas even.
Yeah, yeah, it's and the thing that's so crazy when I think about it is that who are the women who actually come? And I think that the women who come share something in common, and that is they are dreamers. Okay, it's like we get to stir up the dreamer in women where there's something that perhaps they thought about doing that never had the courage to do, that they come to an Inspire Women conference and they're surrounded by women that they see are also seeking that. And it gives them the courage to say, I always wanted to do that. I'm going to get involved in that. I want to find out what will it take to reach at-risk kids. What will it take to reach the women who are trafficked? And then to see that, wow, Inspire Women doesn't just stir up all the dreams and say, okay, go dream it. We actually awaken that in you, and then we come back and say, talk to me about what is it that you envision doing, and is there training you need to do that? And if you don't have the money, we will fund the scholarships to get you trained so you can step into your God-given potential.
So as you're mentioning the various zip codes that go beyond Houston, Texas, that find out about your events and so forth, how did they find out about you to begin with?
I think they do because one of the schools that we fund is Dallas Theological Seminary. And Dallas Theological Seminary has campuses in 6 different cities. Okay, so when those students start to apply, then what happens is you start having a hub in that city with other women in that city going, oh, have you heard of Inspire Women? Well, I'm going to go. Some of them even travel to Houston when we have our annual conference. And so it's a very exciting thing of meeting them and then actually meeting them in person. Someone
may be hearing you right now, Anita, right?
Yeah. I think that when women discover us, their reaction is, where have you been? And the reason for that is we actually spend very little on advertising. We don't buy ads. You know, it wasn't like we're trying to get known because there were so many women coming, and we spend so much of our time working with them that I think that the kind of publicity we have gotten, literally people have reached into us. I remember that the first time a publisher came to see me, I thought they were coming to just, they must think, Anita does something with women, so we're just going to ask her opinion on something. I thought that's why they were coming. Okay, so the acquisition editor of Moody Publishers walks into my office and says, Anita, this is what we did. We sat around and we asked, who is out there doing something that is changing the lives of women? And she said, then we started calling different people in your area. And she says that over and over again, the name Inspire Women came up. And so she said, have you written anything? And so then
you're an author, right?
Well, but because I write the curriculum that I use for the women, and the day she walked in, it just came off the printer. And I said, well, I just finished writing Transforming Emotions in the Leader's Heart. She picked up the curriculum. Literally, this was the meeting. It was like a 3-minute meeting. She picked up the curriculum and she says, you are an editor's dream come true. And she said, you will be hearing from us. And then she walked out. And I thought, what just happened here? And that was my first publication. It was with Moody Publishers, and they published the book Transforming for a Purpose.
And you have 2 books right here. Let's tell people.
Well, these 2 books are not that book. So I wrote this book, A Daughter's Destiny. And I wrote it because I started to look at how the story in my life was actually connected to the story in my mother's life. So I thought, yes, that's my mom, right? I thought it began with the story of a little village girl and how she had no voice. And one of the things that I was telling people that I felt my mother was saying before she took her own life is, oh God, give my daughter the voice I never had. Okay. And so I thought that should be in the book to show people how your life is not just independent. It's connected to the lives before you. And what you do with your life will be connected to all the lives coming after you. And I thought that not only did the daughter find her voice, but then God used her voice to empower the voices of thousands of women, right? And so what I didn't know when I wrote it, a lot of it, when I finished writing, this is one thing I've always done. I think a lot of people write and they're trying to be some best-selling author, and then they're trying to do book tours and all of that. And I think that the question I would challenge them with is, if God placed on your heart to write, okay, are you telling him that it's not worth your time if it's not a bestseller? What if God wants you to write the book for him? I said, is that not enough? And so I think with a lot of things that I write, I just write it if God puts on my heart to write it. I just know that if I have finished it and I have done what he's asked me to do, and however he uses it is how he uses it. Well, somehow this book ended up in the hands of some movie directors. And a friend of mine, her name is Lorianne Beelan, and she's always pushing me to go, it needs to be a movie. And I said, I know God already told me it needs to be a movie. I said, I just don't know how it's going to be a movie, but I think it's going to be a movie. And I said, and I love gatherings and I love celebrations. And I said, oh, I can just picture this. I said, I can picture us having the entire theater, every supporter and every student, every scholarship recipient will be there, and we will celebrate what we have done together. Okay, so I said, well, I don't know when that will be. So she actually had given the book to 2 movie directors, and then I get this phone call, and they said they wanted to come see me. And I really didn't know why, right? And I said, why? And then she said, I think they want to see if you're real, And I was like, okay. And so they came and literally stayed the whole day. They not only came, they brought part of their crew with them. So there was a whole group at our headquarters. And then they started giving me a presentation. And I just thought, okay, wait a minute. This is not like some casual meeting. This is like they have already thought through this. They've actually even picked the person who would play me in the movie. And they picked the one who would play my husband. And it was so funny, but it was so surreal. And I thought, what is happening here? And I just thought, man, I need some time to think about this. Is God actually putting Inspire Women on the big screen? And I said, so what is compelling you? And they said, we just had the first Asian win the Academy Award. The interest on China and the Chinese cast is big. We feel like this is the right timing for a movie coming out of China that is a very optimistic and it's a very positive movie. The whole plot could be the mother who said, give my daughter the voice I never had. And the audience looking at what did the daughter have to overcome in order to actually do that. And
I could see, I'm picturing it right now.
It?
Yeah, I mean, the story is easy to picture and is very interesting right off the bat.
Right. And it's so funny because then they would say to me, how do you envision the story beginning? And I started to think, see, I love doing things that involve.
I'm picturing the house with the 3 floors, right?
Yeah. So I just think it's so exciting to involve people on a journey. I think we need to build community to pull people into something that is positive and victorious, right? And so I thought, we should have a contest. We should have people submitting, how do you think the story should begin? And how do you think the story will end? And so the directors actually said to me, so if you had to pick the beginning, what would you pick? And I said, I don't know. I said, maybe the knock on my door in my home in Houston and the friend who brought my mother's ashes from Hong Kong and handed me a brown padded parcel. And I'm taking it, okay? And I'm going into my living room. I'm by myself. And literally, I can see this. Okay, the sun is shining in through this big picture window I have. And it's shining right on me and on this parcel. And I open it, and my hand just rubs across the surface of a smooth white marble urn. Okay, and I pick up that urn, and I actually cradle it in my arms. And I would be thinking that all these years I was so afraid to send for her ashes, thinking, is this the only way I got her out? Okay, and yet on that day when she was finally here, my heart was so filled with joy because I could not believe what God had done with the pain. from the mother I could not save. He transformed that pain into a passion for every woman who still has the chance to finish well. And so the movie directors immediately said, oh, and we know how the story will end. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, at the Inspire Women Conference, one of the things we did just for fun, because we love to do things just for fun, okay? We actually had each of the attendees wear a pink chiffon vest. Okay, and you were there. So I think that we tied up the vest, right? And we put it on the women so that we could have a physical symbol of our unity. And they said, that's how it should end. It should end with these thousands of women draped in these pink vests, leaving the auditorium.
That's your color, the pink. Yeah.
That's right, to send a message that they're bringing inspiration to the world. So it's like we've already pictured the whole thing.
So a couple things. How is the movie coming now? I assume there's something in progress.
Well, I think they've left it with me, okay, because they're like, tell us your interest. And they were so kind. They were like, you tell us what you need in order to do this. And I think my stress level is, I have so many students and that are depending on me that I can't be off making a movie, because it's like I've got kids to raise. And so I'm just praying that God would make a way. Because if this story is shown, now I did ask some of the movie directors and they said, oh, this is a big story. And I said, why do you say that? And they said, because this story has the power to reach all of Asia and the world. She says, a lot of stories are very local. He said, and this story,
right.
And this story is about someone who really had nothing. So it gives so much hope to people to think, okay, so you're born with nobody knows your name. You don't really have that influence, and yet God could use your life. Well, if God could use her, then God can use me. And so I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm just waiting for God's timing. I always tell the women this. I said, don't manipulate your way. Okay, don't force fit your way. And I said, and the reason for that is because when you get there, you're going to get so insecure because you manipulated your way there. I said, but if God opened the door, then your security is in knowing that all you're doing is you're stepping into what is happening. Okay, you're not trying to make anything happen. You're just stepping into what's happening.
And I understand there's a luncheon coming up that people should know about. Let's tell people about that. And also tell us, how often is the annual conference event that you have?
Okay, so the luncheon is on November the 10th, and it's going to be at the River Oaks Country Club. And our speaker this year is Pat Williams, and he's from the Orlando Magics. He wrote a book called Revolutionary Leadership. And so what we do at the luncheon, it is our only fundraising event. And we raise the funds that will help us train the women. And the people who come are amazing business leaders and philanthropists. Judine Deco was someone I met through the luncheon for Texas Floor Coverings. Amazing woman of God and a business leader who was willing to connect the success of her company with women who are called to serve. The women who are called to serve, they don't have the same provision, right? They're literally laying down their lives to go into service, and to see the business leaders who God has blessed with success in their business saying, I'm going to take part of that success and I'm going to invest in this woman. Judine has actually bought tables at our luncheon, and she has a flooring company, which is amazing because anytime we need flooring, we call Judine and she'll take care of it.
She's right here in the studio, and she's the one that invited you today.
That's right. Amazing women who understand the power of connection, and is willing to use that influence on behalf of someone else. So I just pray that if there's someone out there, if you have a heart for women, if a significant woman was in your life, it could be in honor of your mom, in honor of your grandmother, in honor of a teacher in your life, buy a table. And know that the funds will go into investing in women who want to serve.
That's awesome. Going way back, I do want to ask you, how did you choose Houston? Or how was it Houston, from Hong Kong to Houston? It could have been another city.
Right.
Why
right.
Houston?
Oh, I didn't choose Houston. So when I first came here, I actually started at Mississippi University for Women. That's where I started. And it was the funniest thing because my brother was here already, and I had 2 full scholarships. One was to a school in California, and one was to Mississippi University for Women. And my brother said, "This girl thinks you get pregnant by sitting on a toilet seat. There's no way she's going to California." And so he said she's going to an all-girl college in Mississippi. So that's how I started. And then I went to graduate school at the State University of New York. And then when I started working for Exxon, I actually was in New Jersey. So I was all over the place. And I'm in Houston because when I got married, my husband also worked for Exxon. And at the time, it was funny because I was actually at the time working for Booz Allen in New Jersey, and my husband worked for Exxon. And the same day that my company told me that they were promoting me to be head of a department, he got a promotion and was invited to go to Houston. And so I remember going home that day, and we had to make a decision. And I was in that stage in my life where I had been chasing all these things. And when I got them, it just never satisfied. I felt like there's something else I'm supposed to do. And I told him, well, at least you know this is what you want, so let's just go with you. So we came to Houston, Texas, following his career in Exxon. And it was while I was in Houston that we started our family. And when I was home, that's when God started stirring in my heart to go to seminary. And then he took me in a whole different direction of a nonprofit ministry.
We're talking with Anita Carman. The organization is Inspire Women, inspirewomen.org. We're going to come right back with the final moments of the show. Thank you, Anita. As we move from room to room, building to building, business to business, we are walking on floors of some type at all times. At Texas Floor Covering, we are there to serve you since 1989, helping you, whether you're an architect, designer, building manager, general contractor, a sports arena, government agency. We are there for your commercial flooring needs. Texas Floor Covering. Give us a call at 713-862-2444. That's 713-862-2444. Our website is texasfloorcovering.com. That's texasfloorcovering.com. Check us out. We are here for you, Texas Floor Covering. As we continue with Anita Carman with Inspire Women, inspirewomen.org. We have a few minutes left, Anita,
Yes.
and you have a lot to say. So let's tell people everything you want them to know.
Well, I just want to ask the listening audience, if you are a business leader or you're someone that God has blessed with resources, we sure could use your help. So if you wouldn't mind going to our website, inspirewomen.org, you can make a donation, or you can even reserve a table at our upcoming luncheon at the River Oaks Country Club that will be on November the 10th. If you run a business and you have staff that you want to encourage, I would encourage you to send them to Inspire Women's Leadership Academy, because we will teach them the emotional fortitude to finish well, which is very, very important if you have people working for you, because you want them to have staying power. We have a conference coming up. So if you have a dreamer in you that wants to be stirred, our conference is on September the 16th. It will be hosted at Houston's First Baptist Church, and the theme is emotional health amidst changes. So that's really how I would love to invite you. If you want to apply for a scholarship, okay, just contact us via our website, or you can call us at 713-521-1400.
The number again is
713-521-1400, and our website is inspirewomen.org.
And all the dates, if they forget, are going to be on the website. So we have the September date, the November date,
Right.
all that's on the website, inspirewomen.org. And we got about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh,
There's a lot to say.
Oh, gosh, I want to leave you.
What's the future? Yeah.
No, I want to leave you with a story. When you think about Inspire Women, think about potential that's rescued. And I leave you with a basketball illustration because my husband coached basketball and my kids were in high school. And this is my son, 15-year-old Robbie. And he was the top scorer. And his dad would say, Robbie, just remember, you are the top scorer. The other team will try to foul you out. Make sure you don't sit on the bench. Well, sure enough, 1 minute left to the game. Robbie fouls out and he is on the bench. The other team gets the ball and they run to the side of their court and they score and the team won. And on the way home, my husband said to him, Robbie, you were sitting on the bench and your team needed you. And, when I think about that story, I think about the mission of Inspire Women. We're about women get off the bench. Okay, God has given you a gift, and we are here to walk with you, to empower you, so that because the team needs you. Okay, we need you. We need you as a leader in our country, in our community, and you have a friend now who will walk with you to get there.
Thank you so much, Anita Carman, inspirewomen.org. The phone number again is
713-521-1400.
All the information is on the website. And thank you, Judine Deacle with Texas Floor Covering, for bringing Anita here today. And thank you all for listening to Successful Living with Bill Knapik. I am your host, Bill Knapik. Check us out next week. Simply go to radiobill.net for all the coordinates, and we will see you then. Thank you, ladies.